My name is David Bennett. 2 nights ago, I woke from a coma to hear my own daughter whisper, "When he's gone, everything's ours." I opened my eyes and said, "Not today. If you love your parents or your kids, don't scroll. Stay. Hear what betrayal sounds like up close. And please subscribe."
The hospital lights hummed like summer cicadas. I woke to antiseptic air, a slow heart monitor, and my daughter, Erin, standing over me, whispering to her husband, Kyle. Her voice was soft, knife-sharp. "The house, the accounts, when he's gone, it all becomes ours." I blinked into the brightness and let the words settle like poison. Ours. Nurse Jordan's silhouette moved at the edge of the curtain. "Mr. Bennett, can you hear me?" A beat. Then, with the steadiness of a man who'd filed tax returns through crises and funerals, I turned my head and said, "Morning." The room froze. Erin's face drained as if someone unplugged the color from her skin. Kyle's fake smile crumpled. They looked like kids caught stealing from the church basket. "Dad," Erin started, voice shaking. "We've been so worried." "Sure." I flicked my gaze to Dr. Patel standing in the doorway, arms crossed, reading a patient like a ledger. "Mr. Bennett, you were in a coma for 36 hours. Ethylene glycol in your system. It's antifreeze." A cold clarity slid into place. Antifreeze. Sweet, deadly. My mind scrolled backward. Last night's stew, Erin's eyes watching every bite. The bitterness I wrote off as cheap wine cooked too long. The way the hallway stretched as my legs stopped listening. The phone slipping from my hand. My neighbor, Mr. Whitaker's beagle barking outside. Then nothing. And now, everything. I met Erin's eyes. She couldn't hold my gaze. Kyle stared a hole into the floor. I thought about my late wife, Leela, 23 years gone. Her recipe box in our Columbus kitchen. Cards with her handwriting in blue ink. Erin used to stand on a chair beside her, hair in crooked pigtails, sneaking carrots from the cutting board. Family dinners. Bless this food. Amen. Ethylene glycol. Detective Marcus Reed's card sat in a clear plastic sleeve, clipped to the end of my bed. Hospital protocol when criminal suspicion is involved. Someone had already started a case file. I swallowed and felt every inch of the betrayal move through me, hot, then cold. "Mr. Bennett," Dr. Patel said quietly, "you're safe here." I nodded, but it didn't feel true. Safe had been a good word once. Safe was my backyard in Clintonville, the maple leaves flaring orange, buckeyes buzzing on a fall Saturday as kids chalked driveways. Safe was Leela's hand in mine at church. Safe was calling Erin kiddo and meaning it. Now, safe had become a hospital promise that couldn't reach my home. Erin stepped closer, stretching for my hand. The touch was cold. A pose. Her voice softened into the kind of performance you give nurses and strangers. "Dad, we'll be back later. Rest." "Do that," I said, closing my eyes again, only to keep the fury from showing. As their footsteps faded, I stared up into the grid of ceiling tiles and counted. Anything to anchor myself. The number ended up being 48. You learn to hold on to numbers when love breaks in half. I decided right there, no shouting, no scenes, just receipts. I'd spent 40 years as a CPA catching lies, hiding between lines on a spreadsheet. If they tried to write my ending, I'd audit their souls. And I'd do it the same way I spent a career dealing with men in suits who lied with straight faces, quietly, legally, completely. If your stomach dropped at that whisper, don't just scroll. Subscribe and comment "I'm here" so you don't face betrayal alone. Someone needs this revenge story, this deep emotional story of justice and redemption, more than you know. You don't notice a house cracking until a door won't close. You don't notice a child changing until the ask feels like a threat. 2 days earlier, I'd felt lighter than I had in months. Coffee with an old colleague, Tom Garcia, at Fox in the Snow on High Street. We laughed about clients who called debits and credits opinions. We promised to fish down on Alum Creek when spring finally settled in. I drove home beneath the budding sycamores of our Columbus block. The front door stuck a little as it does when the weather swings. I pushed it open and found Aaron and Kyle in the living room, not watching TV, not reading, waiting. The air held its breath. "Perfect timing, Dad," Aaron said, smiled tight. "We need to talk." "Let me change," I told them, hanging my jacket with the precision of habit. "Can it wait?" Kyle leaned forward, elbows on knees like a salesman about to lose his quota. "This opportunity won't. 15 months, max. We triple. I've got inside information." Inside information. My jaw set. I crossed to my armchair, took out the small black notebook I keep in my shirt pocket. 4 decades trained me to write down everything. Inside information, I repeated softly, flipping to neatly ruled lines. "Like last time?" Aaron's smile wavered. "Dad, this is different." I ran a finger down columns of amounts I wished I didn't know. "Different than the $28,000 you needed for real estate licensing and guaranteed leads? Different than $35,000 for the specialty brand you and your buddy swore would blow up on TikTok? Different than $20,000 to keep the business afloat until revenue stabilizes?" Kyle stared through me. Aaron crossed her arms. "Those were learning experiences." "I funded those experiences," I said. "All told, $83,000 in 3 years. I haven't seen a dollar back. Show me one, just one." Silence narrowed the room. Aaron's eyes hardened, calculation replacing warmth. "It's going to be ours anyway. Why not let us use it now when we actually need it?" I felt the pivot deep in my chest. Not a request, an entitlement. Planning my estate while I was still sitting in it. Later that evening, she made dinner. "Beef stew," she announced from the kitchen, speaking into the room without looking at me. "Your favorite." Steam rose from the bowl, rich, savory, comforting. I ate, grateful for the gesture, for a flash of the kid who used to help Lila in this same kitchen. There was a bitterness, a little off, so I chalked it up to the red wine reduction. I kept eating. Halfway through, the floor tilted a hair. I blinked. Another bite. The room swayed. I pushed back from the table, and my voice came from far away. I need to sit down." "You're already sitting," Aaron said, stirring at the stove, her tone perfectly even. The hallway stretched long as a bad dream. I aimed my hand at the phone on the hall table, the same one Tom calls when a game's on. My fingers slipped, my knees buckled, my shoulder hit the wall. The phone clattered away. From somewhere near the front door, Mr. Whitaker's beagle Truman barked like a siren. Then darkness fell, quick as a summer storm. Now, in a hospital bed, Dr. Patel's words confirmed what my body already knew. Antifreeze. Not an accident, not a mistake, a choice. I had to be certain, not just for courtrooms, for myself. I needed to hear what my child sounded like when she thought I was already gone. If your heart's pounding and you're whispering "no way" under your breath, hit like. And if you've ever been that parent who kept saying yes, comment "no more." Don't leave without subscribing. Stories like this USA drama keep us honest. Tell them I'm unresponsive, I whispered to the nurse. Then let them talk. Previously, I'd totaled every broken promise in neat columns. I'd tasted the bitterness. I'd woken to a truth I didn't yet want to say out loud. Now I needed proof. Nurse Jordan studied my face when I asked. "Mr. Bennett," she said carefully, "that's highly unusual." "So is poisoning your dad," I answered. "Let them think I'm still out. Give me 5 minutes." Her eyes flicked to the door, back to me. She weighed policy against instinct. Finally, a small nod. 5 minutes. I positioned my phone by the pillow and opened the voice recorder. Ohio's one-party consent law was clear. I could record what I was part of. I closed my eyes, slowed my breathing, and waited. The door hissed. Aaron's perfume hit first. Expensive, borrowed money smell. Kyle's breathing was shallow, too fast. Aaron took my hand. Not a squeeze, just touch for appearance. "Oh, Dad," she sang softly, sweet as maple syrup. "Please wake up. We're here now." A chair leg scraped to the floor. Kyle's voice was tight. "What do these numbers even mean?" "Heart rate, oxygen." Aaron's tone shifted, sugar melting into steel. "He looks awful. Think he's gonna make it?" Kyle moved closer to the bed. "Doctor said 50-50. Honestly, maybe it's better if he doesn't." He swallowed. "I mean, he's 62. He's had a good run." "A good run? Like a racehorse?" Aaron sighed near the window. "The house alone is what, 460? And he told me once his retirement was conservative but comfortable. $500,000 easy. Life insurance is 75. "You saw a policy?" Kyle asked. "In his study. I told him I was looking for stamps." She exhaled. "That's over $1 million once probate clears." My face didn't move. My heartbeat stayed slow. My anger filed away every number and nodded, "Yes, that tracks." Kyle lowered his voice, but the room was small. "You're sure the doses were right?" "The antifreeze in his dinners." "Measured," Aaron said, crisp. "Small amounts each night, so it builds. Looks like organ failure. Old men die like that. No one will question it." "They tested him. What if they find it?" "They'll find trace. Could be the garage. Could be anything. He's old," she said again. "Even if they suspect, they can't prove it's deliberate, not from trace." Every cell in my body wanted to sit up and make the bed quake beneath their feet. Instead, I laid there and let their words settle into the recorder, into me. Proof. "When can we access the accounts?" Kyle asked. "Death certificate takes a few weeks." "Soon," Aaron said. "I made sure he updated his will last year. We're sole beneficiaries." They'd driven me to the attorney, sat in the waiting room, asked gentle questions in the car about being responsible. My stomach turned. "All right," Kyle said finally. "Let's tell the nurse we'll come back tomorrow. Appearances." They left. The door clicked shut. I counted to 30, then opened my eyes and stopped the recording. 43 minutes. I listened twice, every word clear. When Detective Reed arrived, I played it for him. He kept his face neutral and his pen moving. "Mr. Bennett, we'll need your formal statement. Then we're going to pick them up." A quiet part of me flinched at the word them. Another part of me, the part that had stared down executives who thought numbers were suggestions, just nodded. "Do it by the book. All of it." If this confession made your chest ache, subscribe. Comment justice so others see it too. Don't skip this. Someday you might need to remember how to listen for the truth. The day I left the hospital, I brought 2 things home: a new will and a backbone I should have used sooner. I walked out of Riverside Methodist 3 days later with a paper bag of prescriptions and a plan that clicked like safeties on a firearm. They'd been arrested within 48 hours.
attempted murder, conspiracy. Held and released on bail. They went to ground in a grubby apartment off Morse Road. I didn't wait for them to return to my house. I called Allison Drake, an estate and family attorney whose office sits on a quiet block in German Village where the brick seems to hold weather like memory. In her conference room, I slid my little black ledger across the table. "I need 3 things," I said. She listened without interrupting, pen poised, but still. "Number 1, revise my will. Everything goes to charity. Columbus Literacy Alliance, Riverside Foundation, Mid-Ohio Food Collective. Leave Aaron out completely." Allison nodded. "We can execute that today." Number 2, eviction. They've been living in my home for 3 years. Criminal charges, documented threat to my safety. I want them out, done right. Understood. She made a note. "We'll move fast. I want a judgment. I'm not trying to get rich. I want a record that says the truth." Allison reviewed my spreadsheet. "You're thorough. I'm an accountant. Old habits." We signed the new will with 2 witnesses and a notary who smelled like peppermint tea. The eviction filing hit the docket the next morning. Their strip mall attorney, Barry Whitman, across from a nail salon on Cleveland Avenue, argued half-heartedly about family protections. The judge didn't blink. "Criminal charges override," she said. 15 days from service. They were served on a rainy Tuesday. I watched through my front window as the process server handed Kyle a manila envelope he kept trying to fold smaller. Aaron read the first page, sagged a fraction, then stood up straight and performed outrage for a neighbor who happened to be outside with a trash bag. The neighbor backed away like outrage might bite.
They moved into Riverside Flats. Water-stained siding, chain-link patios, windows that sweat. Their lives shrank to fit. Aaron picked up shifts at State Street Diner, teal uniform, white apron, tired feet. Kyle tried to pitch investors again, pretending the charges hanging over him were just weather, not climate. My favorite part of accounting was watching the story change once you stopped believing the lie. So I did what I do. I tracked the consequences like line items, evictions served, bail posted, public defender assigned, civil suit filed. I learned that information moves fast in Columbus when it needs to. A friend at the Columbus Business Alliance, Robert Chen, picked up when I called. "They're pitching people in your network," I told him. "They tried to poison me." Silence sat on the line, heavy. "Send me the case number," he said finally. "We're not going to let sharks sell life jackets." Within days, Kyle's lunches disappeared from calendars. Aaron's tables were empty after someone shared a link in a local moms group. The Columbus Dispatch called. A reporter named Lauren Kim verified records, spoke to Detective Reed, and wrote the story clean. No tabloids, just facts. "Local couple charged in father's antifreeze poisoning," the headline read. People shared it, angry, stunned, sad. My name lived with the word victim long enough to feel like a bruise. Their names lived with the word accused, then convicted, forever. I didn't dance on their graves. I made sure there'd be no graves to dance on, just a record, just truth, and a slow, steady pressure of consequences. If a piece of you is saying, "I need to start keeping receipts," like this video and comment, "Buy the book." Subscribe for more emotional storytelling and karma stories that remind us why fairness matters.
The morning after the article, the phone rang. It was Kyle's mother, and she was crying. We'd gone from whispers in a hospital room to arrest warrants to an eviction notice flapping on a front door. Now the story left courtrooms and moved into living rooms. The Dispatch piece gathered momentum. Facebook shares, next-door debates, a thread in a local anti-elder abuse group. People feel stories like this in their bones. Grown children betraying aging parents is a chord Americans hear and hate. The comments poured in. "My dad gave my brother everything. I ignored the signs. How do we protect our parents?" Aaron lost her job at the diner quietly. "Negative publicity," the manager said in a 2-line email I saw later in Discovery. Kyle's investor meetings vaporized. A buddy of his posted on LinkedIn about doing your due diligence, and that was that. Then my phone rang. Mr. Bennett? The voice was soft, Southern Ohio, tired. This is Patricia Wolfe. I'm Kyle's mother. I stood at the kitchen window looking at the maple tree Lila and I planted when Erin was 10, back when she still brought me crayon drawings. Yes, ma'am. I've been sending the money, Patricia said, shame and grief wrestling in her throat. For rent, for groceries. I thought it was just a family disagreement. I read the article. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I can't. She swallowed. I won't help them anymore. Mrs. Wolfe, I said, you're not responsible for your son's choices. She cried softly. Thank you for not hating me. After we hung up, I added a line to my spreadsheet. Family support ended. It wasn't about dollars. It was about the story being told in every direction now. Truth, outrunning excuses. That night, I drove past Riverside Flats. Light leaked through their radiator-lined windows. Voices carried. Erin and Kyle fought like people trying to push a house back together with their hands. You should have measured, Erin snapped through the cracked pane. You're the one who poured. You're the one who wanted him gone, Kyle shot back. It was your idea. Pressure peeled the paint off everything. Marriage, lies, entitlement. A foundation built on greed doesn't survive a hard rain. In the middle of this, my life, my actual life, began to grow in the spaces where fear had been. Tom and I started taking short morning walks. My neighbor, Mr. Whitaker, brought Truman over to sit in my lap while we watched the Reds lose gracefully. I went down to Blick and bought watercolors and stood at a folding table in the community center downtown trying to paint the Scioto without turning it into a blue smear. I wasn't chasing revenge, I was choosing breath, choosing paint drying, coffee cooling, neighborhood dogs leaning their full warm weight into me. It was a hope moment I didn't see coming, a reminder that justice doesn't demand you rot with anger while you wait. Then Detective Reed called. Prosecutors offering a plea, he said. Attempted poisoning instead of attempted murder. 3 years probation, community service, restitution, permanent no contact. He paused. They're cracking. I thought about my ledger, about the sound of Erin's voice rehearsed for the nurse. I thought about Leela's recipe card for beef stew, the way the ink had faded at the edges from our fingers. I thought about the weight of antique guilt and fresh betrayal and how they occupy the same rooms in the heart. Let them plead, I said. I don't need them locked in a box. I need the truth locked on the record. The public part of this USA drama hits you hard? Press like, drop a comment. Truth matters. And subscribe. Don't leave. Someone you love may need a roadmap like this when heartbreak and betrayal knock.
In a room with flickering fluorescent lights, their own attorney told them the thing that finally cracked them. Juries don't forgive recordings. The public defender, James Martinez, didn't sugarcoat anything. Listen carefully, he told them in a gray conference room that smelled like old paper. They have you on tape. Doses, motives, bank accounts. A jury will hear it and take 15 minutes to decide. Erin cried. Kyle tried to turn it into a fight. In the end, the pleas sat on the table. Inevitable. They signed. Meanwhile, Allison filed our civil suit and attached my spreadsheet as Exhibit A. When the hearing came up, they didn't show. Whether it was fear, arrogance, or the fact that Erin had picked up a temp job at a call center and couldn't afford to skip, I don't know. Judge Hall read through the documentation, asked me 1 or 2 sharp questions, and awarded judgment. $95,000, principal plus interest plus costs. He signed in blue ink, like all real decisions are made. Ohio allows wage garnishment. It doesn't ruin people, it reminds them. Slowly. A courthouse clerk stamped a seal, and a month later, $236 appeared in my account from Erin's new job. Kyle, working in a warehouse off I-670, sent $29. Those numbers didn't change my life, but they went in a new ledger, proof that actions echo for a long time. The plea hearing was scheduled. Before that day, I sat at my desk with Leela's old fountain pen and wrote my victim impact statement. No shouting, no venom.
2 pages of clean limes. 3 years, $83,000 in loans, none repaid. 1 week, multiple small doses of antifreeze. 36 hours in a coma. An organ system that almost failed. A neighbor's courage. A relationship you can't glue back together with the word sorry. I wrote this too. The justice system worked. The police listened. The prosecutors moved carefully. The court will now do what courts do, which is to say out loud what happened. One evening, an envelope arrived addressed in Aaron's handwriting. I held it and didn't open it. Not out of pettiness, out of triage. You don't throw a door open in a storm. I cooked dinner that night, chicken and rice. I ate at the table alone, looked at the chair where Aaron sat when she was 9, feet swinging. I wondered what happens to a soul that learns to put numbers before people. I wondered if I'd taught her that by accident, the way we pass down recipes and reactions without thinking. Compassion isn't forgiveness dressed up. Compassion is telling the truth without setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. The night before court, I slept 8 full hours for the first time since the ICU. I woke to early sunlight cutting across the floor in a way that looked like mercy. I put on my best Navy suit, the one I wore to Leela's funeral and to Aaron's graduation. It still fit, a little looser now. I tied my tie like muscle memory and headed for the courthouse. If you believe in justice without revenge, hit like, comment, steady. And if you're still here, subscribe. This emotional storytelling is for adults who have lived enough to know that healing and redemption take time.
Say in your own words what you did, the judge said. In that silence, I heard who my daughter had become. Courtroom C, 3rd floor, Franklin County. Judge Sarah Morrison presiding. The air felt like the inside of a library, quiet and dust-scented. Aaron and Kyle sat apart on the defendant's bench, with the public defender between them like a fence. All rise, the bailiff called. We stood. Judge Morrison settled at the bench, reviewed the file with an expression you'd develop only after 1,000 sad stories. We're here for sentencing in State v. Aaron Bennett Wolfe and Kyle Wolfe, attempted poisoning. Both defendants wish to enter pleas. Yes, Your Honor, Martinez said. The judge looked at Aaron. Miss Bennett Wolfe, before I accept your plea, tell me in your own words what you did. Aaron's hand shook. I put antifreeze in my father's food, she said, tears slipping down. Not performed now, just gravity. Because I thought she couldn't finish the sentence. Her shame finished it for her.
And you, Mr. Wolfe? Kyle stared at his shoes. I helped, I measured, I served it. The judge nodded, and then turned to me. Mr. Bennett, would you like to speak? I walked to the witness stand and affirmed. The paper shook slightly in my hand as I began. Over 3 years, I gave my daughter and her husband $83,000 in loans. I kept it formal. In return, they added ethylene glycol to my meals for approximately 7 days. I spent 36 hours in a coma. I survived because a neighbor saw me collapse and called 911. I am grateful to be alive in ways I don't know how to describe. I looked at the judge, not at them. This betrayal destroyed our family. I cannot trust my daughter. I cannot have her in my home. I won't argue for harshness or leniency. I ask the court to do what the law requires. When I finished, the judge held my gaze a moment, then spoke to them. The facts here are stark. The audio is damning. You planned to murder a man who loved you for money. You are fortunate he lived. You will live with this record forever. She sentenced them to 3 years of supervised probation, 500 hours of community service each,
and $10,000 in restitution to the court, on top of the civil judgment, and a permanent no-contact order with me. If you violate any term, she said, voice like a gavel, you will serve a prison term. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, they both murmured. We stood to leave. In the doorway, Erin stopped me. Dad, she said, voice raw. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I did this to you. You didn't deserve it. I looked at her, at the child I'd walked to the bus stop in the snow, at the woman who'd measured my life like an account balance. I heard sincerity finally, not performance. It arrived late, but it arrived. As your father, I said quietly, I forgive you. That's what fathers do. I took a breath. But as a person who trusted you, I can't forget. You chose money over my life. We both live with that now. She nodded and cried harder. I walked out. In the hallway, sunlight cut across the marble. It looked like a path. If this moment cracked you open, hit like. Comment, I forgive, but I don't forget. And subscribe, don't go. We end with what healing actually looks like in the real world. Justice isn't a door slamming. It's a window opening to ordinary light. 1 month later, I sat on my porch with a mug of black coffee and a watercolor pad open to a messy skyline. Columbus woke up around me. Buses hissing, kids on scooters, a neighbor in an Ohio State hoodie jogging past with a lab that smiled with its whole body. Peace arrived not like a parade, but like a thing that had always been there, waiting for me to unclench. The civil garnishment ticked each month, small numbers arriving like taps on the shoulder. $238 from Erin, $27 from Kyle. It wasn't about the money. It was about knowing that choices echo and that responsibility doesn't vanish just because you want it to. I went to the community center twice a week. My lines got straighter. My river stopped looking like a bruise. Tom and I grilled on Saturdays. Truman curled at my feet. The Dispatch article slid down the front page into the archive where truth lives for anyone who needs it. The letters of my name stopped burning. Inside my desk, an envelope in Erin's handwriting sat unopened. Every week, I picked it up and put it down. I wasn't avoiding, I was choosing. There's a difference. Healing is learning to separate mercy from access, forgiveness from permission. The no-contact order protected the boundary my heart couldn't hold on to on its own yet. Maybe someday I'll open it. Maybe not. The part of me that wanted the dramatic fireworks learned to love quieter victories. A good night's sleep, a bank statement that didn't bleed, the way Mr. Whitaker's grandkids yelled, "Hi, Mr. B," when they biked by. A tiny class of seniors at church started an informal group we jokingly called Receipts and Resilience. We shared stories, love and betrayal, heartbreaking betrayal, healing and redemption. We learned how to say, "I'm not crazy, that happened," and then, "I'm going to be okay." Sometimes, late in the evening, I'd stand at the sink washing one plate and think about Erin at 8 years old, dancing in the kitchen in soccer cleats. I'd feel grief and gratitude on the same breath. I didn't push either away. I wrote one final entry in the ledger that started this journey. Justice achieved, not as punishment, but as protection. I closed it and tucked it in a drawer behind Leela's recipe box. Her beef stew card was on top. Flour on the corners, a smudge from a night she and Erin laughed so hard they cried when the lid clanged and scared the cat. Memory doesn't belong to money. On the porch, lights slid across the floorboards. I painted the way it looked when it hit the maple leaves. Not perfect, true enough. When I finally put my brush down, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Free. If you read this and felt your heart argue with your head, good. Keep your head. Guard your heart. Choose people who choose you. And keep your receipts.
Not to punish, to remember who you are. Don't leave without subscribing. If you'd ever had to rebuild after betrayal, comment, "I'm still here." Hit like so this revenge story, this deep, emotional storytelling for adults, finds someone who needs to hear that justice and mercy can live in the same house.